very special day because I am reviewing Danielle Paige's Dorothy Must Die series, book number 2. The Wicked Will Rise is the second book in the Dorothy Must Die series, and it is about a girl named Amy Gump who comes from Kansas, and she, like Dorothy, was taken by a tornado to the land of Oz. And so she, in the first book, is faced by many dangers and learns about how Oz has come to be how it is today. The story is set in a new Oz where Dorothy is now the ruler, and Amy Gump is now working to try and restore Oz's power. And so The Wicked Will Rise is the second book in the series that is a continuation of Amy's journey to try and restore Oz to the way it was. I just finished the book a few days ago. I have to say that it's not as good, in my opinion, as the first book, but I do think that is definitely a strong sequel. Okay, so essentially, as I said before, the book is a continuation of Amy's journey, so if you have not read the first book, I definitely recommend that you go read it or go see my review for it before you watch this video because you don't want to be spoiled. So in this book, we leave off with Amy after she has killed the Tin Man. We begin to see her struggle with controlling her powers and also working on what the heck she's doing as she has now been separated from the Order. And so Amy is now trying to figure out where she is, what to do, and how she's supposed to continue her mission as she failed it essentially in the first book. She's still with Ollie and his sister at the beginning of this book, and we see them journey to try and find where the next step is and what their next move is because Dorothy has been run out of the castle. I'm giving this book a 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it and I thought it was really good, and I definitely recommend that you guys go read the series because it is an amazing take on the Wizard of Oz. I'm so excited to see someone else's take on it and take on all these new characters and old characters and just see how they've developed them into something so new and different, and it's just amazing to see. And so now I'm gonna get more into the spoilers and more on the details of what I thought of the book. So if you haven't read the book, please go read it. It is very good and I don't want to spoil anything, so go ahead. Woo! And welcome back, non-spoilery people. So you've probably read the book. If not, go read it. So the reason I gave the book a 4 out of 5 stars instead of 5 is because in this book I feel like Amy's character gets a little clouded, and I understand that each character needs to go through some development, but in this book I really felt that there were parts where it was literally just her thinking about Knox and what she was going to do when she saw him instead of actually figuring out what she was going to do. So when I first started the book, I was a little confused. I was wondering what was going on, and I was wondering why there was so much action at the very beginning, because I was like, there's not going to be anything left for her to write about in the end. Right off the bat, she goes and fights the lion, and I was so surprised that we were just jumping into the action like that. But I thought that the scene was very well written, and I really liked how we saw now that Amy is more comfortable using magic, but she still needs to figure out which path she wants to take because the magic is controlling her rather than the other way around. And I really like that key piece because we kept seeing more of that come back throughout the book, especially at the end when she knocks down the wall and transforms into a weird beast. And so I thought that was a really cool twist. When we met the monkeys, I thought they were a really cute touch. At first I was like, oh, I don't want to see any more monkeys. I liked Ollie, but I'm not sure if I want to have a whole scene focused around them. But then we met Queen Lulu, and when we first met Queen Lulu, I was very hesitant because I just felt like she was one of those characters that was there for comedic relief, and I was a little disappointed because there was a lot of scenes with her in it. But then when I realized that there was more to her and she tied more into the storyline with Queen Ozma, I'm not quite sure how to say her name, but when I realized that there was more of a tie and more of a purpose for her, especially at the end when Amy meets up with her again and she has decided to take her monkey army and actually use them in this fight to win back Oz, I realized that there was more of a point to her, and I really actually ended up enjoying the scenes with her in it. So when I first read the book and I first met Pete, I loved him. I actually ended up liking him a bit more than Knox because I thought he was so mysterious and I knew that there was something more to him, but I find it mind-blowing how cool the plot twist was for Pete in this book, because Pete and Ozma are essentially the same person that came out of a spell gone wrong, and I thought it was so cool how we could see Pete's life a bit more in detail, especially when Amy was like, I'm so done, you need to tell me the truth right now, and we got to hear about Pete's story and what happened to make him this way, and I thought that was a really, really good twist, and I ended up liking the character a lot more after that. Another thing that I really liked was the encounter with Amy and the bird that was carved onto the hilt of her knife. I thought that was a really good turning point in the book because not only did she acknowledge her fears, but she tried to overcome them and reassure herself that she was not just the same girl that got picked on in Kansas. She was someone different now and she had matured, and I really thought that was important to her character. Another reason I really like the series is because I really like Amy, and I think the reason I like Amy is because she's a very relatable character. We've all been at school with someone who's super annoying and won't leave us alone and picks on us, and I feel like because we have that down-to-earthness of her character, it makes the books more enjoyable because you can relate a lot more to the characters, which I feel like adds so much to the story. So after Amy's encounter with the bird, we meet Knox again, and this was the part that I didn't really like too much in the book. I felt like it was too focused on their crush for each other, and I understand that their relationship needed to advance, but I felt like it was very childish the way that they were both acting. I thought it took a lot away from Knox's character because he was acting, as he says in the book, he's gone soft when he's been on the island, and I feel like that is extremely true, but I don't think that that should have happened to his character. I feel like Knox is the type of guy that would be very secluded and keeps everything to himself, but when he likes someone, when he likes Amy, he can like show a little bit of compassion and stuff, but he's not soft. He's like strong and like compassionate. And I feel like the complete shift happened. He became extremely soft and caring, and he lost his tough edge that I really liked and we got to know in the first book. And so that's just my opinion on why I didn't really like that scene too much. The next scene, however, I thought was extremely interesting. So when we first met Polychrome and her boyfriend, I was very hesitant because I was like looking forward to meeting them throughout the series when we found out that Amy had to go meet them for the plot to advance. And so I was like, oh, they must be really important characters. And so when we met them and they were kind of just comedic relief and just kind of out there, I was like, how are they adding to the storyline? What are their purposes? And so when Polychrome actually ended up revealing that she was smarter than she looked, I actually ended up liking her a lot more. She was the one who actually found out that Pete and Ozma were essentially the same without Amy even telling her. And another thing I did not like was that Amy thought of betraying Pete. Pete did end up betraying her, but I do not like the fact that Amy was considering betraying Pete. That's just me personally. My opinion is you should not betray your friends, and Amy, when she was like, oh, well, I'm not quite sure, I was like, no, Amy, you have to. You promised Pete, and he helped you find Knox. You can't just not return the favor. And we see that it backfired on her. Pete ended up betraying her because she was not committed to helping Pete. And so I thought that was a really interesting character flaw that ended up influencing the whole plot. So the epic battle scene with Dorothy and Glinda versus Amy, Knox, and Polychrome and her boyfriend and her unicorn, I was both happy and a little disappointed. I was happy that we were getting a bit more action now because from the beginning to that point, the whole middle chunk of the book kind of felt a little flat. Like we were learning the story, which is really important, but we were getting to the point where we needed kind of something to happen to keep the reader engaged. And so I was very happy that it happened, and also we learned a lot more about how Dorothy and Amy are essentially counterparts. They came from the same place, they have the same history, and we see that their paths could have been the same depending on what route they decided to take. And I really liked how we got to see in the battle their comparison, because Dorothy was like, Amy, we use the same magic too. See, we're not as different as you think we are. And I thought that was a really important point because it shows the two paths that you could have taken, the Dorothy evil path or the Amy good path / wicked, because we have the whole wicked is actually good thing. The thing I was a little disappointed about in the battle was we literally just met Polychrome and she died, like right out of the bat. And I was like, what? What? We just met her. She was a really good character. I can't decide if I liked it or not. And I think it was important that we saw another character just die out of the blue, because Indigo in the first book just died right off the bat and we were just getting to know her. And I think that it's really important for an author to do something unique like that, because it shows that it's not going to be the ideal world and bad things are going to happen, and it shows how intense the situation has gotten in Oz that people are just dying right off the bat. And so I think that that was a very good touch that Danielle put in her book. So the end scene, oh my gosh, I was so confused about where the plot was going at the end. I was like, what is going on? The wizard is evil, Dorothy is helping him, were they in cahoots? What was going on? And oh my god, I need the next book because the ending was so, they dropped so many bombshells on us. There were so many plot twists in that one end scene that we have absolutely no idea what's gonna happen next. The whole time we're thinking, oh, the wizard is good, he told Amy what's going on, and Amy is now collecting all of these parts to try and restore Oz, but now we learn that the wizard actually wasn't being good, and he was using the power for himself. And so we see a complete plot twist of a character, and then all of a sudden we get picked up by a tornado and dropped back in Kansas. And so I'm really interested to see where the next book goes. So I'm very excited for the next book to come out. I think there are a lot of unanswered questions that I cannot wait to figure out what happened, and I feel like the next book is going to be a lot about Dorothy and Amy. And I have a feeling that they might either end up working together, whether or not they're friends. I feel like they don't really have a choice now, because it seems like half of the people were transported to Kansas and half of the people stayed behind. So I'm really excited to see how Dorothy and Amy interact now that they need each other in this situation. And I feel like we're going to see an encounter between Amy and her mother after her mother has completely changed her behaviors. And so I am very excited to see all of these new character interactions, and I cannot wait for the next book to come out. So if you're interested and you like that review, please tell me what you thought of this book down below. I would love to see your comments on the book and what you thought of certain scenes. If you agreed with me, disagreed with me, leave a comment down below and I will read all of them. I definitely have to say that I love these books. If you have not read them, go and read them. They are now in my top 5 favorite book series. Danielle Paige did an amazing job on transforming the world of Oz into a completely new light. I am so excited for the next book to come out, and I will have another book review after I finish that one, and I think that's a wrap.